I've been testing and reviewing electric toothbrushes for 10 years now. In that time I've handled in excess of 200 different brushes, so now feels like a fitting time to share what I've learned, what's changed and what hasn't. I'll give you a summary of my key learnings up front so you don't have to watch the whole video, but it's well worth doing so as I go into more detail on particular things and give lots of useful insights. The most important thing I have learned, and what has and remains a core message we promote here at Electric Teeth, is that you don't need to spend a lot to get a good electric toothbrush that cleans your teeth well. For less than $80 or £50 in the UK, you can get brushes that have the essential features we recommend: a timer, a pacer and a pressure sensor. The average American brushes for just 45 to 70 seconds per day, despite 2 minutes per session being the advice. The timer and pacer help encourage us to brush evenly for the correct amount of time. Scrubbing the teeth hard and fast doesn't usually result in a better clean. In fact, it can cause irreversible damage. The pressure sensor helps prevent you and I from brushing too hard and doing damage to our teeth and delicate gums. Equally as important as the brush you use is how you use it. You should brush for a minimum of 2 minutes twice a day using the correct technique. If you don't follow these basics, it doesn't matter how much you spend on an electric toothbrush, it won't clean your teeth any better. I've included a link in the description that explains what you need to do to maintain good oral hygiene. A single cleaning mode is enough, but having a sensitive or gentle cleaning mode can help, especially if you suffer from sensitivity or gum recession. Whilst the power or number of brush head movements does have a part to play, it isn't as important as many think. Don't worry too much about the brush head style. A soft bristle head is best. Despite the wide array of choices, rarely does one actually clean that much better than another. Just be sure to replace it on average every 3 months. I generally don't recommend smart toothbrushes because they're more than the average user needs, and they can make the brush more expensive, and not all smart toothbrushes are made equal. Unless you never take your electric toothbrush out of the house, a travel case is generally worth paying a small premium for. Sonic and oscillating rotating technology both clean your teeth very well. Which you use comes down to personal preference. There is clinical data to support both technologies. In the real world, the difference isn't necessarily as clear cut. Both do a very good job when used correctly. In the vast majority of cases, I don't recommend using a mouthpiece or full mouth toothbrush instead of a regular electric toothbrush. The main exceptions are for caregivers or those with certain disabilities. You don't have to opt for a premium brand like Oral-B and Sonicare. There is a certain peace of mind in doing so. They are more widely sold. It is generally easier to source replacement brush heads. You can often be assured of good quality, performance and reliability. A decent warranty and after-sales support is included, but other brands can be as good, offering better value for money or environmental credentials, for example. Where 3 years might once have been the typical life from an electric toothbrush, 5 or more does seem to be achievable with many when looked after. Major brands have done little to make it easier to decide which toothbrush of theirs to buy. The vast array of options continues to confuse potential buyers. Plaque disclosing tablets can help you improve and refine your brushing technique. Given such simple advice, you can be forgiven for thinking that there wasn't much room for new products and innovation, but I've seen quite a variety of different brushes come through over the years. Here's a look at the various categories where we've seen some change. Use the timestamps in the video description if you'd prefer to jump to a specific portion of the video. Smart toothbrushes. Smart toothbrushes are the obvious thing to start with because people often associate product progression with technological advances. Smart and AI are buzzwords and are a bit vague unless you drill down into the specifics. With an electric toothbrush, they are typically used in conjunction with a brush that connects to a smartphone app to implement certain features or provide feedback on your brushing. This includes reminding you when to change your brush head, using your smartphone to change cleaning modes, changing the color of the pressure sensor alert, and providing real-time visual feedback on how well you are brushing your teeth. After some patchy offerings on earlier models, we've now got to the point where top-end models do a good job of implementing this. We are beginning to see more and more mid-range brushes have such tech too. It's almost an expectation to show innovation and advancement. However, I don't typically recommend smart toothbrushes, and that has been our stance at Electricteeth for almost the entire time they've existed. The truth is, you can clean your teeth just as well with a brush that costs a fraction of the price. To get the most out of a smart toothbrush features, you need to be dedicated to using them. With the same dedication, you can improve your brushing technique using more cost-effective plaque disclosing tablets. A YouTube community survey I conducted revealed that 68% of respondents who owned a smart toothbrush had stopped using the Bluetooth come smart features after 3 months. I know that many people that buy a smart toothbrush stop using the technology after as little as a couple of weeks. Even I, as a seasoned user, don't take full advantage of the apps and their tracking. Rarely do they show or tell me anything I don't already know. In many instances too, the brands are doing a poor job of actually communicating what the tech does. I've had lots of people comment that they bought a toothbrush because they thought it did something, when in reality they don't. Misleading or ambiguous sales images and text might imply the brush can track how well you brush your teeth, but in reality it is only logging when and for how long, not which teeth you actually did or did not cover during your brushing session. The other downsides to them are that they have a greater environmental impact because of the components used, and they're more expensive to replace if you drop them on a hard surface in the bathroom and break them. With some of them, you're also required to take your smartphone into the bathroom to get the most out of them, or even to change cleaning mode. If you're trying to wind down before bed, having a reason to have your smartphone with you last thing at night is probably the opposite of what you need. If you really think you'll benefit from the features that a smart toothbrush offers, there is something to be said for them, but generally speaking you can do just as well with a brush that costs far less. Mouthpiece toothbrushes. Another new innovation that has emerged in recent years is the Mouthpiece toothbrush, also known by various other names such as the full mouth toothbrush. If you haven't come across one of these, it typically looks a bit like a mouthguard that is attached to a handle that purports to brush all your teeth at once, thus reducing the overall brushing time needed. There are slight variations on how they are implemented, but that's the gist of it. It is a little surprising how keen people are to reduce the amount of time they spend brushing their teeth. Given the impact good oral hygiene has on your overall health and well-being, cutting corners on the 4 or so minutes a day you need to spend brushing isn't something I would advise, but I certainly understand the appeal. We've now got to the point where there's a couple of products that are good enough to warrant consideration. They still don't remove as much plaque as an electric toothbrush that is used with the correct technique, and they're more expensive than the standard brushes we recommend, but there is a time and a place for them. For people that have certain development disabilities and do struggle to use regular electric toothbrush as advised, a product like a Mouthpiece toothbrush can help at least to remove more plaque than inadequate brushing would. Or if you're someone that really can't force yourself to brush for 4 minutes a day with a regular toothbrush, maybe they're worth paying a premium for. Personally, I imagine I'll be sticking to an electric toothbrush for some time to come, but I'm excited by the possibilities, as I do feel in time the tech will evolve to ensure we can all brush our teeth better with less effort, ultimately improving the standard of oral care globally. Other improvements. Some of the other improvements that have been made to the standard electric toothbrush include improvements on battery life, pressure sensor implementation, and the way they are charged. Displays. Yes, screens are now built into select brushes. This wasn't a thing 10 years ago. The display replaces the need for multiple labels and LEDs on the handle. It allows some greater control of brush settings from the handle itself that used to be reserved for a smartphone app. Oral-B have led the charge on this, introducing both black and white and colour LED panels. Philips are yet to follow suit. Challenger brand Oclean has, and I'd say they are actually making better use of such. Unlike Oral-B, select Oclean models will actually give visual feedback of the teeth that have and have not been brushed. This does away with the need to refer to a smartphone app at the time of brushing, unless you specifically want to. They look impressive, but they are far from a must-have. They increase the environmental impact of the brush, but have proven more reliable than imagined when they were first introduced. Pressure sensor. A pressure sensor gives you an alert when you are using too much force to brush your teeth. This is one of the key features we recommend because brushing too hard can lead to problems with gum recession and tooth sensitivity. Until the Oral-B IO series launched, a pressure sensor was only used to tell you when you were brushing with too much force. The IO range of brushes now uses various colours, with its light ring to show you when you're brushing with too much pressure, too little, or the correct amount. This is a moderately useful feature. The cheapest brush you can get with this is the IO3, which is within the price range we recommend for a good electric toothbrush. Sonicare also uses a visual pressure sensor alert on some of its brushes, but predominantly it uses a vibrating alert that travels through the brush handle when you brush too hard. I feel like the noticeability of this vibrating alert has improved in recent years, and I feel as comfortable relying on it as I do a visual alert. This is because the different vibration pattern in the handle at the time the sensor is being activated also causes a change in sound to the brush. For the average user, both two senses are stimulated compared to the one with most Oral-B brushes. Such an implementation is more considerate of impaired users. Battery life. Battery life in toothbrushes is something that has seen significant improvements since I first started testing them. One of the more recent models I've reviewed, the Sonicare 5500, scored a whopping 51 days of battery life. That's seriously impressive compared to select older models that would only score 5 to 10 days. If you charge your electric toothbrush every night, then battery life isn't such a concern, but having to charge it less than once a month is certainly a nice convenience. If you're going away somewhere, it can be a difference between having to take a charger with you or not. Much of this seems to have stemmed in a change in battery technology, where 10 years ago most brushes had nickel metal hydride batteries, the majority now use lithium ion. Oral-B has been the slowest to develop in this area. Even their flagship models offer around 2 weeks of charge, something which is achievable of a brush 1/10 of the price. Charging. The way you charge your toothbrush has also started to change. A decade ago, most brushes had to be placed onto a charging stand that sits on a countertop. Whilst this is still the case for many, there are notable changes. 2-pin power adapters are being replaced with USB connectors. A lot of brushes now have charging ports built right into the handle itself. An increasing number now use USB-C. This is the charging connector that's used with Android phones and newer versions of the iPhone. This adds another degree of convenience to taking your toothbrush away with you somewhere, because you only need to take one charger to charge both your phone and your toothbrush. Charging travel cases, where you can charge a toothbrush within its case, have been around for a while now, but they have become more common and slimmer in recent years. I do find a travel case to be a feature worth paying for, and it's a bonus if it's a charging travel case. Philips have been one of the most innovative within this space, albeit with more case variations and connectors that I would like to have seen. Their newest charging cases on their mid-range brushes almost feel like a step backward, using a more proprietary style USB charging cable. Lesser known brands like Surrey and Oaklean have kept things more simple and currently set a good standard by which to copy. Yet again, despite having the ability to pioneer, Oral-B's charging travel cases are embarrassingly clunky and reliant on a bulky separate power adapter. Design. On the whole, I would say design has improved slightly over the years. There is a conscious effort being made to make the brush look nice as well as being functional. Some brushes now have a very slim profile and a sleek feeling to them. A select few are particularly lightweight, and there is a wide array of colour choices. I note a reduction in the use of rubber and silicone material on the handle, and a general trend to more minimal design. Some of them have a seamless button design whereby the power button is part of the handle. Improving reliability is the aim here. It's not the biggest change, but it's something worth pointing out. I'm all for reliability, but I've actually found this made the button firmer and less pleasing to use. Noise. Brushes have also gotten quieter. Oral-B's oscillating rotating brushes have always been at the louder end of the scale because of the technology used. The Oral-B IO range has made improvements on this, but it's still not as quiet as the Sonic toothbrushes, generally speaking. Some Sonic toothbrushes are now very quiet indeed. The Oaklean X Pro Elite is the quietest to date, measuring 48 decibels in my hands-on testing. By comparison, the Oral-B i3 is 64 decibels and the loudest is the Genius X at 77. Which is on the older side now, but it's almost 30 decibels louder than the Oaklean. That's quite a difference if you're in a household where noise needs to be kept to a minimum for one reason or another. Brush heads. Many of the same style brush heads that existed 10 years ago are still available today, and for good reason. They work. I had hoped that the major manufacturers would have simplified their brush head ranges. They don't need to be as diverse as they are. There have been suggestions and signs that they would, but alas, it hasn't transpired how I hoped. My own testing has confirmed there is little meaningful difference between them in terms of cleaning results. I've yet to see any brand really justify where there is a need for so many styles. The Philips A3 all-in-one brush head is one of the best available and serves most users really well. It is more expensive than the average head though, because it rolls the benefits of a few different heads into one. I stand by the comment I have made many hundreds of times before. Don't worry about the brush head, worry more about picking one and using it with the correct brushing technique, etc. I respect the brands who manufacture just one or two styles of head for their brushes. They do serve the vast majority of us perfectly well. Challenger brushes. When we first launched Electricteeth back at the start of 2015, there were far fewer of what I would call challenger brushes. These are brushes that are offering an alternative to the main players in the market, Oral-B and Sonicare. Those two brands do still dominate the niche, but should you be looking for something slightly different to what they offer, there are now some good options available. This could come in the form of subscription toothbrush services like Quip in the USA or Ordo in the UK, or brushes that are trying to be more environmentally considerate, such as Surrey. For better or worse, there are also very cheap brushes that are available mostly on Amazon. For what they offer, they really are very cheap, but that does come with the downside of potential reliability issues. One such brand that did start to gain a bit of market share was Fairywill, but that ended up being banned from Amazon for shady customer review practices. If you're really on a budget and want an electric toothbrush, these products are worth considering, but do be aware that they don't have the reputational backing of the more established brands. In some ways, it's surprising that we haven't seen larger brands make more of an effort to enter the toothbrush market. Colgate is a major oral care brand, but when it comes to electric brushes, they've been on the periphery for a while now. In recent years, it has launched the Hum range of brushes, but it's never pushed to the point of being a serious challenger to Oral-B or Sonicare, despite actually being one of the better smart toothbrush offerings. Panasonic is another brand which, despite a strong reputation, hasn't pushed itself in the oral care market as I would have expected, given their resource and product range. Dyson have yet to play their hand despite patents for an oral care product. Environmental considerations. Arguably the most impressive challenger brand we've seen emerge in recent years is Surrey, which is trying to address the environmental impact electric toothbrushes have. Surrey brushes are designed to be easier to repair, and it also offers a recycling scheme for its brush heads. Surrey only launched a couple of years ago, so it's hard to comment on the impact of this so far, but in principle it's more than the bigger brands appear to be doing. Neither Sonicare nor Oral-B offer fully fledged take-back schemes for their brush heads. They have partnered with TerraCycle here and there, but Sonicare has recently discontinued its partnership with TerraCycle in the UK. Sonicare also puts RFID chips in its brush sink heads, which means that a microchip is being thrown away every time someone has finished with a head. Philips is now beginning to use bio-based plastics for their brush heads. Some improvements have been made in that paper and cardboard are used instead of plastic for packaging, but these are small changes in the grand scheme of things. Considering an electric toothbrush has been found to be 11 times more impactful than a manual toothbrush, the big players in the market really should be doing more to make improvements. Cleaning modes and intensities. One of the features of electric toothbrushes that has always been confusing is the number of cleaning modes. Some of the most expensive brushes now have 7 cleaning modes. One of Sonicare's new brushes has 4 cleaning modes, each of which can be used at 3 different intensities, giving 12 configurations overall. The sheer amount of choice convolutes the very simple activity of brushing your teeth. Having some variety can be useful, but so much choice and the varying terminology from one manufacturer to another makes things more confusing for the average person. I do find it useful to have a standard clean mode and a gentler mode or intensity for when my teeth or gums feel a bit sensitive. But truthfully, if you're on a budget, you can get by with 1 cleaning mode. You certainly don't need 7 to clean your teeth well. In case this is a topic you want to explore further, I'll link to another video in the description that compares the various cleaning modes from different manufacturers, how they differ and what my preferred settings are. Cost. The final subject to touch on is the overall cost of owning an electric toothbrush. At the lower end of the scale, this hasn't changed much. It's as cheap as ever to buy a reliable electric toothbrush that has the basic features you need for improving and maintaining good oral hygiene. At the higher end of the scale, prices have increased because of the introduction of smart toothbrushes. This has pushed prices up for those that are willing to pay for them. It's also increased the price of replacement brush heads for those brushes. Sonicare's brush heads have always been more expensive than Oral-B's. The heads for its microchip containing RFID heads are slightly dearer still. The head for Oral-B's IO range are more expensive than its non-IO brush heads, which is a downside to buying one of the IO brushes lower in the range. For non-IO brushes, it's easier to find third-party heads which are even cheaper. Typically we do recommend going for the Oral-B ones, but there are some reasonable options if you want to save some cash. It's the same situation with third-party Sonicare heads. As things stand, our top recommended brush in the USA costs about $120 to own over the space of 3 years, including official replacement heads from Oral-B to cover those 3 years. In the UK, the cost is about £80. In some cases, that's less than half of what you would pay for a smart toothbrush, but ultimately, both can clean your teeth just as well. Over the last 520 plus weeks, I've lightly brushed my teeth on average 2.5 times a day, which equates to 365 hours or 15 days of brushing. And the upshot of all of this is that the basics of good oral care are the same today as they were when I first started the electric teeth venture. Brush twice a day for 2 minutes with the correct technique. You don't need an expensive toothbrush to clean your teeth well. The drive to start electric teeth came from the desire to demystify the electric toothbrush market and make it simpler for others to make a purchasing decision, rather than be faced with the decision paralysis that I had when I looked to buy a replacement brush all those years ago. I feel we have progressed a long way and are a helpful resource. I know many have benefited from our honest and to the point summary of toothbrushes. But what remains is a confusing array of choice. The major brands haven't really slowed down in producing a dizzying selection of models with negligible differences between each. Selling by confusion seems to be the aim here, and even I get confused by what one brush does compared to another despite a seemingly identical spec sheet. It all seems to be about locking us into an ecosystem, as replacement brush heads is where the profit appears to be made. So there you have it. For answers to all your electric toothbrush questions, just search electric teeth or leave a comment below.